After 2 seasons in orange, Daniel Ricciardo's McLaren career will come to an end at the end of the 2022 season. It's a rumour that's been up and down the grid over the course of the season. As far back as Monaco, there were discussions with McLaren and how they weren't really that happy with Daniel Ricciardo's progress, and they were starting to look at different avenues that they could go down. And even though Daniel Ricciardo was contracted for the 2023 season, you can see from this tweet here that McLaren and Daniel Ricciardo have come to a mutual agreement to end that contract at the end of 2022. They've bought out Daniel Ricciardo's contract for 2023, and they will be able to replace the Australian driver for that 2023 season. The team thanks Daniel for his dedication, his contribution, including, of course, that memorable win in Monza that we'll talk about in a little while. But hopefully he can finish the season strongly, as he has got 9 races left with the McLaren outfit in 2022. Then we can go into a little bit more detail as we head over to the McLaren website. Again, this announcement coming at 3 o'clock. Daniel Ricciardo to leave McLaren Racing at the end of the 2022 season. Daniel Ricciardo had his say here. He said it's a privilege to be part of that McLaren team, obviously an illustrious team to be part of in Formula One. And Daniel Ricciardo has now been able to be part of so many great teams in Formula One, and possibly will be moving on to another great team next season. We'll have to wait and see. But after several months of discussions with Zach and Andreas, he's decided to terminate that contract with the team early, agreed mutually to part ways at the end of the season, and he will be announcing future plans in due course. And I'm very excited to see what Daniel Ricciardo has to say, whether or not he will be moving to another team in 2023, whether or not he'll be moving to a different racing series in 2023. Andreas also had his say, thanking Daniel Ricciardo for his dedication and contribution over the last couple of seasons, despite sharing the challenges that we've had with the team. Fighting with a difficult car, he always showed spirit, always had positivity. And I think that's the one thing you could always say about Daniel Ricciardo. Whether or not the car was there for him, he is absolutely one of those drivers that gives everything he can every single race weekend. Of course, also touching on the fact that we'll never forget that memorable race win in Monza, which is a great boost to the whole team, and the important battle that he's been able to do in the Constructors' Championship. I'd say last year more than this year, but of course he has still got 9 races left of the season, and maybe they can overcome Alpine in the next few. And then finally, Zach Brown said Daniel has been a great addition to McLaren. It's been a pleasure working with him, and he wanted to thank him, of course, for those efforts over the last 2 seasons. It's no secret that we hoped we'd be able to achieve more together, but seeing him stand on the top step of the podium as a McLaren driver was a highlight. So everybody kind of gravitating towards that Monza victory, and it makes sense. It was the absolute highlight of Daniel Ricciardo's career at McLaren. He is the only driver to win in a McLaren car in a very, very long time. And then finally, we had a video from Daniel Ricciardo himself, 2 minutes and 20 seconds. He explains how the results weren't really there for him at McLaren, but he did really enjoy his time with the team. And then he touches on the fact that he's still hungry. He still has a real drive and love for Formula One. He definitely wants to stay in the sport next year, which I think links to some of the other seats that he might be available for. Because if we look at the 2023 driver lineups, there is still a lot of options for Daniel Ricciardo. Obviously, he's now dropping out of that McLaren team, meaning Lando Norris needs to find a new teammate for the 2023 season. But there are still lots of options for the Australian moving forward. There's still a seat next to Valtteri Bottas, Alfa Romeo, with Zhou Guanyu yet to be signed up for 2023. Or, of course, we know he's got those links with the Renault team. He was there just a couple of years ago. And Fernando Alonso has decided to move on to Aston Martin, so there is now a seat alongside Esteban Ocon at Alpine. Or he could make a move back into the Red Bull family. Obviously has ties. He was Max Verstappen's teammate before he made that move to Renault. Maybe he goes back into the Alphatauri team alongside Pierre Gasly. They obviously went for Sergio Perez, a little bit of experience for the main team. Maybe they go for a little bit of experience in the sister team as well. Then there's all the question marks hanging over Mick Schumacher right now. He was supposed to have contract talks with the Haas team, but then the Haas team decided not to. There's been talks of Giovinazzi, Hülkenberg possibly coming into that Haas seat. With the American ties, Daniel Ricciardo would slot into that Haas team incredibly well, but he probably would have to take a pay cut too. Last but not least, Nicholas Latifi doesn't have a contract for 2023 as of yet. Alex Albon has only just been announced by the Williams team. It would be a big step back for Daniel Ricciardo, but if he's dedicated and wants to stay in Formula One for the foreseeable future, a Williams seat might not be a bad option for the Australian. Whichever team does manage to pick up Daniel Ricciardo, in my opinion, is picking up an incredible driver. Somebody who's been around the Formula One grid for a little while now, has experience at lots of different teams, and is able to drive teams forward, but is a driver that is a little bit bereft of confidence. Just look at these statistics. Obviously, the fact that he and Lando Norris are so far apart in that McLaren car. Yes, McLaren are to blame for that a little bit, but still, Daniel Ricciardo, for me, has been so far off the pace and has lost a little bit of that confidence that he did have. He was the latest of the late breakers. because he's no longer that at McLaren. It doesn't suit him. It doesn't quite fit his style. He needs a car that's built around him. He's not one of those drivers that can go into any car and deliver. You can see here the difference between him and Lando Norris. 76 points for Lando Norris, just 19 for Daniel Ricciardo. Only 4 points finishes from 13 races for the Australian. He needs a car that is going to be built around him. He can go in it, get results, and be that number one in the team moving forward. But with that said, as a McLaren fan, I am really sad to see Daniel Ricciardo go. It just never quite worked out. I was really excited to see how he would do when he moved from Renault. I think in my first ever Formula 1 video that I made on this channel, I said that Daniel Ricciardo could come 5th in the Drivers' Championship behind the Red Bulls and Mercedes in his first season at McLaren. It never quite worked out, but we do have that win at Monza. We do have that celebratory win, the first win since 2012 with my team. It was absolutely phenomenal to have him in the team. I wish him all the best moving forward. I think whatever team gets him, as I said, is getting an incredible driver. And I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Which team do you think Daniel Ricciardo will end up at in 2023? Whilst you're down there, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. We are edging ever closer to 10,000 subscribers. And of course, we are back live over the weekend for the Belgian Grand Prix. We'll be live for qualifying and the race itself. I would love to see you there. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.
He won! Bloody did it! Yes! Yeah, boy!